Thank you very much, dear Perry, Mr. President. You have often said during these weeks that this is your 100th day of service as president, and if you read the activities of the president, they are impressive in 100 days. It just triggered my idea to say that this is the 50th time that I report to the Assembly in its different articulation, the Bureau, the plenary, the Standing Committee. And every time I have to report so that the members can scrutinize the activity of the Secretariat, I have this dilemma, because a written report is distributed. So what do? Do I read the report? It's long, there is too much, maybe you've read it already. Or do I make it a little bit more interesting in highlighting few aspects? And when you want to do that, you have to discuss, do you want to put maybe the nuclear stuff first and then softer at the end, or start soft and end the nuclear if you want to get the attention of members. Today I only have nuclear stuff to tell you, so I think I might say it with a softer tone, but I have lots of things that I would like to bring your attention to. Well, first of all, Mr. President, thank you very much for your governance paper. As you underlined, this has been a work ongoing since Pia Kauma's presidency. We've had several meetings of the Bureau, also extended Bureau, to discuss a little bit the identity of this Assembly. This Assembly has gone through a big transformation in the last 10 years. Yeah, I've distributed this little leaflet that you will see the amount of activities and the amount of engagement of members throughout the last 10 years. Some colleagues have told me, Roberto, you have opened the Pandora's box. I think I feel responsible for the increase of activity. When I was first elected Secretary General, I said that I wanted to see an assembly who not only does statutory meetings, election observation, but is present on the field, is present on the ground when things happen. And I think you have really captured that spirit, Mr. President, which is also the result of all your consultations with delegations. And the numbers prove it. Members want to be present. Members want to engage, want to have the possibility to be on the terrain, be able to contribute concretely. Of course, this requires a lot of activity, a lot of work. I've seen yesterday how engaged we were in discussing a possibility of elections in Ukraine, and for 5 hours members were engaged on that. We had a very interesting discussion also on what to do with Georgia and whether to engage or whether to stay out of that dossier. The general spirit of the Assembly is that members want to engage. The numbers prove it exponentially. If you see the statistics, how many members have participated to our activities. Yet, as the treasurer, and I thank Johan for your great work, and Gustavo and Stephen for managing the finances of this Assembly. So yet the finances are reducing. We have an increase of activities, but a reduction of the finances also in nominal growth. This means that we have to cover that gap. So far, the gap has been covered by the work of my colleagues at the Secretariat. We've requested more from them. We have, in the last 10 years, also hired colleagues who were before research fellows, who have become junior professional, but after some years they're no longer junior professionals, they're senior professionals. But this has worked because we had kind of internally managed to ask more from colleagues. But in the long run, this is, as also the Secretary General of the governmental side said, this is unsustainable. And I think we have to find alternative sources of financing. And here I would like to thank again, because it's always good to thank those who contribute more, but I'd like to thank Luxembourg, Austria and Denmark for hosting our Secretariat, Italy and Germany for also seconding staff, and Switzerland for recently also supporting us with extra budget contributions. I think this is also something that we have to explore with other delegations. And another way to contribute is also to come forth, as you said, with applications to host our events. We have for next year covered 2026, but we don't have a host for the annual session in 2027 and 2028 and 2029. So I hope that during these days we can approach some of you with the idea of coming to host the annual session in the future. President Pere also instructed the Secretariat to produce a little booklet with statistics. It's been distributed to you twice. In the statistics, you will see a little bit how positions of responsibilities in this assembly have been distributed in those positions that require a presidential discretion, namely nominating leaders of election observation missions or special representatives, and those who are elected positions. And you will see, of course, that there are some countries that are more represented than others, and I appreciate your effort, Mr. President, in making this assembly a little bit more plural, a little bit more diverse, and gender balanced. And as gender balance is something that we've always taken very seriously in this assembly, I must underscore that since you've become president, you've made 16 nominations for special representative, and they have been extremely balanced, 8 and 8, and 4 nominations for election observation. You've nominated 3 women and 1 man. So on these, you have, let's say, stuck to your word and acted accordingly. But we, of course, have to consider that this is done in the framework of an assembly which is, by default, more represented by men, because the membership is decided by each national delegation, and on that there is no way the president or the secretariat can influence. So each delegation, so we have around 70% men, 30% women representing the entire assembly, but notwithstanding these figures, you've managed to nominate a leadership which is extremely gender balanced. The activities that we have carried out since Porto are all listed in my report. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just would like to underscore the very important visit that President Pere led in Kiev, meeting with Zelensky, that was again representing the entire assembly and representing the impeccable track record this assembly has on the dossier of Ukraine. I think all our declarations since 2022, but also those previous to 2022 after the legal annexation of Crimea, I think the assembly has always been on track, on record, being calling spade to a spade, not lukewarming our message, and I'm very proud of this work. Also, you underscored the field activities. I'd like to thank the members also who were in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Some of you also, I think Eugenio Zofili went to meet also with the soldiers who serve there. I think it's very nice for us to show to the local stakeholders on how we engage and how we pay interest in the OSCE field activities. And as we touch upon that issue, I'd like to say something, because we went also to see Srebrenica, and this was, for me, a very touchy moment. Srebrenica is a place where there was a genocide in 1995. But at the entrance, some of you saw it, of this memorial, there was a sign that says, "The failure of the international community." And I have served my entire career in the international community. I've never worked for Italy, let's say. I've always worked for the international community in all its articulation, OSCE in the field, in the Secretariat, now in the Parliamentary Assembly. And I've always looked at how the recipients of our work, how what I call the end users of the work of the OSCE or the international community perceive our work. And this is very important, because when we make these field visits, when we go and talk to local stakeholders, they are very smart in spotting whether we really care about what we do, whether we really put our heart in what we do. And here I would like to really thank the delegations who were part of the Bosnia mission, who visited Bosnia together with you, because I could see a lot of interest, a lot of engagement, a lot of very sharp questions and empathy shown to the local stakeholders. The same that we do with the Migration Committee or with the other committees. And I think this is where, if we are realistic about what activities can this parliamentary assembly do and what is the outreach of parliamentarians, of course, we will not be able, unfortunately, to be the ones who decide whether the conflict in Ukraine will be solved in one way or another. We can contribute, or in other places. But at least one place where we can contribute and where we can be very effective is that when we engage on the ground, when we meet local stakeholders, we show interest, we participate, we show empathy, and of course, try to support the local stakeholders with a lot of attention. And I think this is very much much appreciated by the people we visit, be it on migration, be it on this kind of field activities. I'd like to just make a quick comment about what was said by the delegate of the Belarusian delegation, because you touched upon the issue of dialogue. And you know how much I have sometimes also taken heat on this issue by promoting dialogue and saying, of course, that this is an assembly that has to build bridges and talk also to those we have disagreements with. And I formally support that. But I also say that we have to make sure that this dialogue is on the basis of the Helsinki Final Act and on the Decalogue. So we have to have that in mind. Of course, we have to have dialogue, but dialogue is also, if you are at breach with the commitments of this organization, this has to be underscored, because we cannot just lukewarm our message and say, okay, let's talk to each other and let's forget what has happened. So I think dialogue, yes, and I'm a strong promoter of that, but on the basis of the Helsinki Final Act and on the principles of this organization. One last word on the Finnish, not Finnish, the report, but the Finland chair. You've seen some letters I've distributed, and you've been wondering why I'm distributing letters. Now, I have worked with many Finnish leaders. I've had two presidents who were from Finland, late Ilkka Kanerva and Pia Kauma, and I've actually in my career in the OSCE served three chair of the OSCE, Ilkka Kanerva himself, Alexander Stubb, who is now president of Finland, and the current chair of Finland. And I must say that I have always had very good cooperation with the chair. This year, and as you know, I'm normally very honest with my comments, we've had some challenges. I am a little bit disappointed that we didn't have the chair coming to Vienna, didn't come to the meeting in Porto. We've also rearranged sometimes the agenda in order to accommodate the request of the chair, but this has not been met with the same level of cooperation. And I must say, Vice President Gudrun mentioned, and some of you mentioned also the cooperation with the organization executive structure, with the secretariat, with the chair. This is excellent, but of course we require also, and we expect that the chair shows respect. Next week, Mr. President, or in 2 weeks, you will be in Vienna speaking to the Ministerial Council. There will be the chair of the organization who represents the governmental side, one pillar of this organization, and then you. You will be the second speaker who represents the parliamentary dimension, let's say the democratic oversight of this organization. And this has to be underscored, and I think as Secretary General, I have a responsibility to kind of raise the flag a little bit when I see that the respect for the Parliamentary Assembly is a little bit lowering down. The entire third committee leadership was in Warsaw for the traditional human dimension conference that they do every October. None of them had a chair around the table. The president who addressed this event was relegated as the last speaker after the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Finland and Poland had left the room. This is a breach of past practices. Always the president has spoken second after the CIO. So I would like that this is also clear with you. These letters were kind of a little bit of an alarm bell. I know with Switzerland we will not have this problem next year. We have already spoken to the Swiss delegation. The chair will probably visit our bureau meeting in Vienna. So the best is yet to come, let's say, with future chairs. But this year I would like to underscore, especially because we've had a great relationship with the Finland, and Pia Kalman's leadership was a great leadership for our assembly. So this is not, of course, addressed to the parliamentary assembly of the Finnish delegation, but more to the current chair. And at the end, I have to say thank you very much to the Turkish delegation for this great organization. Thank you very much for hosting us in such a glamour way, and really for setting up this meeting. And as we are looking for chair for the future annual sessions, maybe we will knock on your door again. Thank you very much. Last word, Pere, thank you very much for the way you have conducted your leadership, very inclusive with all the members, very inclusive with the Secretariat. We very much appreciate all the colleagues at the Secretariat, very much appreciate to be able to bring their ideas, bring their concerns, and then at the end of the day, you are the how they say in the US, the bucket stops here. You make the decision, we follow your decisions, but it's nice to also interact with you in a very, let's say, dynamic and pluralistic way. And thank you very much to all my colleagues at the International Secretariat, Gustavo, Andreas, all those who make sure that this can happen. Thank you very much.